The Digital Millennium Copyright Act. It is meant to protect intellectual property so that, people aren't taking your products or your content, your property, and passing them off as your own or doing things with it that would not be permissible by the creator of that product or work of art or whatever it is. But unfortunately, while the intent of the law is to protect creators of products and content, it is often abused. As a YouTuber, I've obviously faced my fair share of DMCA abuse, both from smaller individuals to big companies, and I don't even have the worst of it. I've heard and read and seen plenty of horror stories of people abusing YouTube's copyright system to try to delete a channel entirely by issuing 3 strikes in a row. And, the way YouTube does it, it's basically guilty before proven innocent rather than innocent before proven guilty. And it's the same with Twitter and other platforms. And the reason I bring this up is because recently we saw a situation where Activision, one of the scummiest video game publishers as far as executives and their decisions go, DMCA a journalist for simply talking about a leak. This wasn't an individual who actually leaked the information. They just relayed the information about the leak because that's public knowledge now. So it all began with tweets by a Twitter user called On Thin Ice. So this just reads, if you're curious, and then this leads to a link to Twitter user Charlie Intel. And basically what was uploaded was a video of updates coming to Call of Duty Warzone, the Battle Royale mode. But you can see right here that the tweet is now unavailable. The video in question, Activision is trying to get rid of it as much as possible, but this is the internet. Once a leak is out, it's near impossible to fully get rid of it. And on that front, On Thin Ice, after uploading the video on their own Twitter page and receiving that DMCA, said, regarding the Warzone video we shared earlier, our intention was not malicious. We saw it being sent around in multiple Discord servers and thought it was already public. Sorry for any negative effect from sharing the video. Now, these are just Twitter users who saw the video and uploaded them. And you can imagine that once the leak happened, various news outlets began reporting on it because, well, that's what their job is, to report on what's happening. And so news outlet Video Games Chronicle published an article whose headline reads, "The first footage of Call of Duty Warzone's new 1980s map has leaked." Reading down here, VGC said that they can confirm that the work-in-progress live-action spot, which was first shared by Twitter account On Thin Ice, is authentic and shows snippets of the new 1980s Warzone map, which we understand will replace the current Verdansk at the end of the season, with an in-game event marking the transition on April 22nd. So all of this information was detailed in the article, but in terms of actual content, actual footage, well, all they did was link to other people's posts. Now, I'm not going to actually play the video because no doubt Activision will breathe down my neck and copyright this video, but this is the article that Video Games Chronicle published. But then, when the editor, Andy Robinson, tweeted about the article, well, he faced consequences that were completely undeserved. So this is what Andy Robinson tweeted. "Here comes Activision removing our legitimate coverage of their leaks from Twitter. I've never received a DMCA from any other games company." And looking at the screenshots, you can see very clearly that a DMCA was, in fact, issued. Twitter said, Twitter maintains a repeat copyright infringer policy under which repeat infringer accounts will be suspended. Accruing multiple DMCA strikes may lead to suspension of your account, which obviously isn't ideal for a journalist who is trying to keep people updated, who gain a following from people who maybe follow their work. Now, ironically, by taking action like this, they've pretty much confirmed that the leak is real. At this point, we pretty much know it isn't fake, because otherwise, what reason would Activision have to engage in such a volatile and desperate manner? Andy Robinson continued, still as if there was any doubt that's confirmed our story. Last year, Activision DMCA dozens of outlets for covering Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War leaks. So this isn't the first time that Activision has done something like this. They're not testing the waters here. This is just standard fare for them. And indeed, going back to August 26, 2020, Andy Robinson tweeted about how Activision just went on a DMCA spree against tons of media Twitter accounts, including Video Games Chronicle, for tweeting links to stories with Black Ops leaks after said leaked info was announced. It'd be one thing if this journalist actually engaged in some kind of information theft and then released that information, but that's not what happened. This was not the individual who actually leaked the material. They're just covering the leak of that material. They're talking about the fact that the leak happened and what was in the leak, which is perfectly valid because this individual didn't sign some NDA or embargo or anything. They're just covering the news, and freedom of the press dictates that they're allowed to cover this stuff. But in an Orwellian fashion, Activision is trying to prevent the press from talking about leaks and issuing unfair DMCA strikes that may lead to one's platform getting shut down. And Twitter, I doubt they're really going to do anything about this, actually look into this, about the validity of this DMCA strike, because that's just how it tends to be. YouTube tends to favor the big companies, and Twitter, no doubt, isn't all that dissimilar in that regard. And, I suppose Andy Robinson could try to fight this, but it may lead to this individual having to engage in legal battles against Activision. I don't know exactly how Andy Robinson will try to resolve this, but it goes without saying that the multi-billion-dollar corporation who can hire the best lawyers and all of these things and actually have the resources to go through this through court will have the advantage. And scrolling down here, you'll find plenty of people chiming in. Prominent Twitter user and industry insider Nibel said, "Sorry to hear that, man. Shit sucks," and Twitter does zero about it. We've got folks from outlets like IGN. This is Joe, executive editor of news for IGN, who straight up said this is absolutely grim. And then Mitch Dyer, who was once a part of IGN and is now a game developer, responded, "Dystopian? What horseshit." Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and claim to understand the exact wording of the law surrounding all of this, but in terms of the intent of that law of DMCA, this doesn't fit the bill. Activision is absolutely abusing their power right now, rather than engaging in a matter that is actually fair. Let's get one thing very straight. Activision and similar companies who engage like this, the job of a journalist or reporter isn't to market something, to promote something. It is just to cover a story as honestly as possible, present as many sides as possible. And in the case of what I do, alongside all that, I do offer my own opinions, my own takes as a content creator who has his own individual opinions and thoughts. But the job of anyone who does video game coverage isn't to protect a company, to protect them from leaks. That's not to say that people with a platform shouldn't be considerate about leaks, making sure that they're not ruining the effort of people who have poured their hearts and souls, their blood and tears into a project. There have to be reasons for why you want to leak something, but at the end of the day, what happened here was that somebody, and I don't know who, leaked this Call of Duty footage, and media outlets are saying, hey, this leak happened, here's what's there, and it's well within their rights to do that without this bullshit DMCA strike, because no copyright was actually violated here. Similarly, in this video, I'm not actually showing you the footage. I'm not presenting the footage. I'm just talking about the information that's out there. And if Activision were to copyright this video, that would be an abuse of power. I'm also reminded of an incident years back when NBA 2K18 came out. There is a news outlet going by the name Sixth Axis who gave the game a 3 out of 10 out of essentially protests for the egregious microtransactions, loot boxes, just the shady monetization elements. And the reason this specific review made headlines aside from the low score is that we learned that 2K reached out to the Sixth Axis and asked them to reconsider their review score because they didn't feel it was fair that this individual was protesting the microtransactions. And unfortunately, Sixth Axis capitulated by saying that, no, we weren't pressured at all. I want to make that very clear. We just didn't feel like the word protest was appropriate for a review, yada, yada, yada. But my stance is, if you want to protest a feature of a game that mars everything, that is totally, completely fair. You know, I cannot get into games like NBA and FIFA because of those systems that mar the gameplay loop, that mar modes like FIFA Ultimate Team, which could potentially be really great if it wasn't for the fact that I constantly have to gamble, that I constantly feel like I'm being milked for my money. I think it is an absolutely valid opinion to say, enough is enough. I gotta protest this. Enough of the bullshit microtransactions. Be better. Sixth Axis tried to claim that, to be crystal clear, 2K haven't put pressure on us. They asked us to reconsider the score and question the use of the word protest, which is wrong in this context and completely on me. No, that's what pressure is. If they reach out to you and say, I don't know how I feel about that review score you posted about our product, that inherently is pressure for you to change your stance. And now Activision continues to be bold with their DMCAs, and they're essentially pressuring media outlets to not talk about leaks, to not go counter to Activision's marketing plans. But again, our job isn't to be an arm of your marketing. It isn't to protect your marketing. It's just to talk about what's going on. And that's all Andy Robinson did, and got DMCA'd for it when it was 100% completely undeserved. This is a move by greedy game publishers to try to control the narrative surrounding their products, their games, because, you know, they want to maximize their revenue and everything. But, you know, Activision was the one who ultimately fucked up. The information got out there, and people can talk about it. Period. There is no argument there. Now, we do see that the article is still up because, well, Video Games Chronicle can decide whether to take down an article or not because this is their platform. But on Twitter, well, Twitter is Twitter's platform, and it's up to them whether to actually address this in a fair manner. But I don't get the sense Twitter really cares enough about someone with not as many followers, someone who isn't as prominent as a major corporation like Activision, for them to actually side with Andy rather than Activision. The fact that this is a trend at all is incredibly disconcerting and compromises the integrity of honest coverage of video games and stories and game company activities. If stuff like this gets DMCA, then who knows what else similar companies like Activision and Activision itself will try to DMCA. Maybe leaks that are important for people to know about, I don't know, internal work culture or how development of a game was troubled, you name it. They could just say, I don't like that story, so let's pretend like we're trying to copyright this because it infringes our the copyright of our products, and use that as a scapegoat for their ultimate goal of silencing coverage that they personally, that the executives aren't pleased with. This sets a very dangerous precedent, and while this DMCA might just be for a leak of a trailer, you never know how much further these game companies might take that and abuse the DMCA and find ways to silence anything that they don't like. And again, we've seen this happen on YouTube in particular. You know, we have seen Jim Sterling is among those who's been pretty vocal about his criticisms for certain games, and, you know, people have tried to take his channel down through the abuse of DMCA, take him to court, and all of these different things. So yeah, fuck off Activision with this bullshit DMCA. And Twitter, you gotta find a better system, because this right here, this is definitely not right. But that's just one man's take on everything surrounding this Activision DMCA. Let me know in the comments below what your take is on Activision's reaction to the leak and the DMCAs that they've issued in the past and the DMCAs are issuing now. Unfairly so, in my opinion, but share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.